You know that old saying, I wish I knew then what I know now? Or what advice would you give your 18-year-old self? You have that opportunity to do that today for a young person. You have that opportunity to teach someone a lesson you wish you would have learned earlier in life.
Welcome to the Under the Pillow podcast.
And welcome to that podcast. My name is Coach Dave Roach. I'm joined by Coach Adrian Rosa here today. We're here to talk about building relationships in your specific sport, your team, right? Again, we talked in the first episode that coaching goes well beyond just sports, right? You got coaching in life, right? There's plenty of life coaches out there. There's fitness coaches. There's teams of individuals at companies that need sales coaches, that need human resources, right? We're always trying to get better. And like I said, it goes way beyond the wrestling mat, the football field, baseball field, what have you. So we're talking to Coach Adrian today. He's currently the assistant coach at Exeter Youth Wrestling. He's also one of our assistant coaches at Venom Wrestling Academy. And we're welcoming him to the podcast. So welcome, Coach Adrian. How are you today?
Thank you. Thank you. I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Glad to be here.
Yeah, no, and we're excited to talk to you about building relationships. It's something you and I have talked about in the past in the wrestling room and in passing. I feel like it's something that's so important to connect with our athletes, and I'm so glad to spend time tonight to talk to you about it. Um, Tell us a little bit. I obviously know who you are. A lot of the Venom people know who you are, but tell us a little bit about your coaching journey, kind of where it started.
Okay. Yeah. So originally, I'm a Jersey guy. Grew up and born and raised in Jersey. Wrestled down in Jersey. Started at the age of 5. My best friend, who actually at the time was heavy into wrestling, and his dad was his coach. I don't want to say he was a daddy coach. He was involved with the program and very involved with his son. And naturally, being best friends, I gravitated. We were always wrestling, and I was curious about it. And that became my first coach of my wrestling career. And he molded me in a way where I knew if I ever had a kid that I would coach my kid or my children the same way that he coached me and my friend at the time. And at that age, net coaching was never part of the game plan, but I still take lessons and valuable situations that he taught me personally to this day, and I bring it to the kids, pull kids aside. So I don't know if I would say he was my influence, because I did have a lot of influential coaches that stuck with me and took me under their wing throughout my journey in wrestling. And yeah, I don't know. I don't know to answer that one where my influence came to start coaching, but definitely started deep roots in Jersey and brought it over to PA.
It's amazing that you had somebody at such a young age kind of influence you and make you start thinking, because now being in your 30s, you can look back at that and say, wow, he really impacted me. And that's what we're trying to do as coaches, make that impact. So you had an exceptional first introduction to somebody that loved the kids, that wanted to give back to the community, that we all wish we had at that age. That's awesome. So your current assistant coach at Exeter Youth and at Venom, how did we get here? So that was how you kind of first saw what coaching was really like. How did you start your own coaching journey, and how you got to where you are today?
So I fell on my coaching journey by accident here in PA. I was looking for a job, and I found an opportunity at a school district in Ole, and I was unemployed at the time in between. So I was like, well, I got nothing to do during the winter season. Let me see if, and I originally went in for a middle school assistant position under Ron Boo Boo Schaefer. He was the head middle school coach at Ole. And the head coach at the time pulled me in and said, look, I'd rather you be my assistant at the high school level, and we'll figure out the middle school as time progresses. So overwhelmed, scared, nervous, cocky, everything that you can think of. I'm going to do this and this is going to be cake. And little did I know, more emotions would come by accepting that offer. I took that, and so I started with Phil over at Ole Valley as his assistant, and learned a lot from Phil. Never really coached at the high school level, so it was more of I was getting coached at the same time as I was supposed to be coaching. You can teach wrestling, you can teach a move, position, and technique, but to learn how to interact with families, how to interact with your wrestler, the school staff, and still be a young adult in itself, I was more or less being coached by the coach. So that's where it started. I've formed a great relationship with Phil. Stuck with him for 6 years, 7 years as an assistant, paid, volunteer, didn't matter. And that's from there. I met you. From there, I went to Exeter and then, building relationships, just kind of branched out.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know it's hard to always look in the future, and especially with COVID and the pandemic. Or let's play magic wand, right? What would your dream coaching future be? Like, if you could pick your coaching job, what would that be?
Definitely down at the youth, sticking with youth kids, or the youth, not youth kids, but sticking with the youth and developing a love for the sport for a young child who has no confidence, no clue of what they're doing, and they might want to quit because they're constantly being beat. And just watching them grow with the sport and becoming something, whether it's a champion or just a successful individual who took something away from wrestling. They don't even have to stay in wrestling, but hey, I've learned this in wrestling, and I became successful in my career with my family because of the lessons that I've learned in the wrestling room for that hour of practice every night. But that's it. I mean, years ago, I thought, I'm going to stick with high school and build up and flourish with them. But anymore, I got kids of my own. So to watch them build their own confidence and find the pride that they get, and just be like, hey, I was a part of picking them up or showing them or lacing up a shoe and teaching them a simple move. That's where it's at for me. That's what means the most. Trophies, titles, championships, it's all great, but to watch a kid start and find who they are is what's special to me.
Yeah, I mean, the glory is all in the state medals, the state championships at the high school level,
Right.
The big wins and losses, the dual meets. But that's one of the many reasons why we love you being on the staff, is because your genuine attitude toward the development of the kids, and
Sure.
and that's a big piece of what we stand for at Venom. So you're at the perfect place.
I got a great story segue for that one. So Jordan Burroughs' elementary coach, one of his youth coaches, he works with me, but I've met him years before, and he talks highly of Jordan. Like, hey, me, Lauren, and Jordan are going for dinner, and great guy, and he still maintains those relationships. Now, he's a guy that he's not in the spotlight when he goes off to Worlds or the Olympics, but he's still a guy who holds some sort of special place in Jordan's heart, where they're still going to dinner. So that to me was like, all that glorified stuff on TV. It's cool and all, but I just rather stay home and just maintain a healthy relationship. And so that goes back to what we were saying. I love that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. So let's go into the relationship building part, right? The reason we're doing the podcast. I think it's valuable to kind of learn who you are and your journey, and that might make sense of why you give certain answers and your experience in general with coaching. To me, there's like 3 levels of, relationships that we need to have. It's with our coaching staff, right? Our own coaches, how we interact with each other. We got our athletes, which is probably the most important, right, of all of the things we can have a relationship with. And we also have to have some sort of working relationship with the athlete's parents. So let's go through each one of those kind of topics. And what are some of the good, healthy things some great coaching staffs can do to maintain relationships with each other?
Communication from the door. Communication. You have to communicate. Coaches, you have to communicate with each other. Be on the same page. You don't necessarily always have to agree or see eye to eye, but you have to communicate the differences. Your opinions, my opinions, where we can meet in the middle, how we can better ourselves, how we can better our team, what's best for the team. Face it, wrestling's the only sport where you're by yourself on the mat. You have nobody else to rely on. So you have to be in 100% communication from top to bottom. So until communication is established, there's nothing else really to discuss until we just clear the air. And you start there. You start there and you work your way down. No two coaches are alike. So where you have a head coach and assistant coach, maybe some volunteer coaches, whoever else is on the squad, figure it out. Maybe if we do a team movie and a team, mini golf outing or whatever the case might be, to kind of build some morale and some camaraderie within the organization. But that's not my thing. Like, I just want to coach and go home and let you guys do it. So be it. But still communicate it, establish your dominance as a coach, and just make it 100% across the board understood where we stand as a whole team.
So as far as it goes about, not every coach is going to agree on everything. We did our first episode on the importance of culture. Does it matter that all the coaches kind of agree on the direction of the organization? What kind of role does that play in everything?
Yeah, so you have to agree on what direction you want your team to go. You don't have a lineman's coach, you don't have a pitcher's coach, you don't have a batter's coach where you can just go and take those specific players and coach them. You have a roster of 14 guys who are going out every night and wrestling for that spot. And then another 14, maybe, give or take, underneath of them. So all doing the same thing, all doing the same moves. So you have to be on the same page, in link with each other of where the direction of the program's going. You have to understand we might not be the most skilled team out there, but we still have to practice like we're the best team out there. So you have to all buy into each other as a coaching staff. And you might be too rough, you might be too lax, you might, not be giving them enough technique or enough training or live wrestling. But at the end of the day, get on the same page with each other and figure out where you can make changes, how we can do things differently to not better ourselves, but to better the team now and in the future.
Yeah, definitely. That looks a lot like constructive criticism, right? When we're helping each other and we know it's coming from a healthy, kind of a good place, that we're not putting each other down, we're trying to help. And when we know it's coming from a good place, we're more receptive of, whether that's criticism or adjustment. That's huge. Let's go to parents, because I want to save the athletes for last, because that's the most important. Because if you don't have an athlete that's comfortable in the environment, you lose all three, essentially. What kind of level of relationship do you think parents have in everything? And how can we foster great relationships with the parents?
Me personally, and I know it's not reflective of every coach, but it's if there's a 1,000%, it'd be 1,000%. After every match, home or away, I would take the time to stick around in the gymnasium and, hey, how did Dave do tonight? Like, what were your thoughts on Dave? And just interact. And how was our performance? Do you feel that we were, yelling out the correct moves, or I gave him neutral in a second? Like, do you agree with that? Or what did you see that I didn't see? What is he struggling with? What does he, and I would engage with each parent, grandparent, uncle, aunt, and just kind of get a feel of where I can improve in my role to better my wrestler. So
can we expand on that real quick?
Sure.
So how have you been able to manage the expectations of the parents when you're asking for that input, to make it seem like then the parent might be in control of the conversation and how try to tell you how to coach. Where is that line where, yeah, you want the input, but you don't want, you want to make sure that the parent understands that, you know, you are the coach. And where there's a disagreement in, you know, say the positioning, say somebody went top instead of bottom. How do you balance that?
It's a slippery slope, because there's been times where I've made a bad call. And, you know, if I let's say, for example, if I put somebody on their feet in the second and they got taken down and got pinned, I have to own that. You know, I'm the one going, hey, neutral. I have to own that. And those are conversations you have with the parent. Hey, look, from my point of view, in that first period, Dave was taking him down. He was owning him on his feet, and poor judgment on my behalf. But in my opinion, he was getting, you know, the best of him on his feet. Why not do it again? Rack some points up, maybe wear him down, end it early. Who knows where it goes? My fault. And you have to own it. So it's a slippery slope. You have to, again, take that criticism, but you also have to hold yourself to an accountable level where if you make those mishaps, you can't go, well, he didn't know what he was doing and he didn't take a shot when he needed a shot. He was open. He just own it and learn. Like I said, there's a lot of times in coaching where you're still learning. You know, you can't wrestle a match that your wrestler's wrestling. You can only do what makes sense to you in your mind as you know, yell out moves and positioning. So just be 100% honest with yourself. If you're going to go that route and give a parent an opportunity to voice opinions or concerns, be even. If they're going to do that, then be honest with yourself and work to the best of their ability too. They might say, hey, Dave needs help on his feet, or Dave needs help down the bottom. And then in the practice room, hey, real quick after practice, let's work on a switch, or let's work on a stand-up, or that Granby you were struggling. Let's just tackle that and just get some positioning under play and see where that led. And you might see it in the change, and they can come up and say, wow, he worked on that. And he was a little bit more clean on his execution, but still not there. But if they can see it, then you're doing something right.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's more of the negative side. Let's turn it to the positive side. How important is buy-in from the parents? Buy-in's a big word, right? Buy-in of the athlete, buy-in of the parent. It's basically their support of what you're doing. How important is that of the parents? Is it necessity? And how do you kind of earn the trust? How do you get the parents to buy into what you're doing in the program?
Well, trust, I mean, you have to work for trust. You have to earn trust of a parent, especially of a minor. You hear that saying all the time, the proof is in the pudding. Once you start establishing a relationship with your wrestler and proving yourself in the room or around and making yourself known, whether you're a personal person or you're not, but introducing yourself and getting yourself out there, putting your name out there, you start slowly building a reputation with the family or family members. It's important to get them to buy it. You need them to buy it. And we stress that back into coaches meeting with the parents. When the parents come in to meet us, you have to buy in. You know, we're here to make your son or daughter better in the wrestling world, in the real world, in school, home life, whatever. We want to make you a better individual. In order to do that, when they're with us, they have to respect us the same way they would you. And it's just from the door. Just put what you want, what your expectations out early. So when the season starts progressing, there's no hiccups. Well, he shouldn't have talked to my kid this way, or he sat him down when he was healthy to wrestle. Put it out what we want, what we expect, where we want to see them go. And it all stems back to communication. Communicate it, let them know what we want, where we are as a program, where we want to see this program go. Maybe not this year, but the next 5 years. And this is the direction. And again, it goes back to direction. Me and coach see it this way. So this is where we're going. You can either join the train or play another winter sport. I mean, basketball. I don't know, but it all starts from the door. And once parents buy in and understand that we have their best interest at heart, it could 9 out of 10 times be a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I couldn't have said that any better. I mean, just communicating with other youth sports coaches and finding the differences in, my program when I was coaching at Muhlenberg, to what they were dealing with parental issues and differences of opinions. And they would ask me, "Oh, you have the same thing?" And I'm like, I really don't. But it
Yeah.
goes to your point. You set the clear expectations at the beginning. You leave an open door for communication, and you just eliminated half of your issues, by taking care of those two things. And
Yeah.
and yeah, couldn't said it better myself. I feel exactly the same way. Now let's get to the meat of the issue, that the athletes. Um, what are some techniques you've used to kind of build relationships with athletes? Because again, that it goes back to the trust level and having the athlete feel comfortable around you. So what are the things that a coach can do, or that you have done to help foster those relationships with the kids?
What helped me, and it's, no fault of my own. I was young. I was what, mid to late 20s when I started at the high school. So I was still a kid myself. Um, you have to be able to relate to the kid. Um, Times have changed. When I was in high school compared to when these kids are in high school back when it's a whole different world, but still finding an opportunity to relate on the mat, off the mat, and taking maybe your coach's hat off and being more of a guidance counselor, or more of a best friend that is only giving one side of a conversation. So once you start opening yourself up to different roles as a coach, you're not a bad guy. He's just like, my other guy over here who I can talk to, who doesn't want to give me the time of day. Now that's just on a more of a personal level, but it all translates back. It all translates back into the room. Listen, I've wrestled since I was 5. I might be old and little creaky at the knees or whatever, but I can still, show you how to do a move. Trust me, that's not going to work. Reaching back's only going to get you so far. Reach back if you want, see where it's going to take you, but lead by example, and be truthful with your wrestlers, because at the end of the day, when they get on the mat and in the world, in the schools or whatever, their behavior, their wrestling, their attitude is all going to reflect back on the coach. So being honest with yourself, being honest with your wrestlers really establishes a good coach wrestling or good coach athlete relationship, where you can build a friendship, you can build a trust relationship, you can build a father figure, you can build so much if you're honest and truthful, and you still set a standard between you and your athlete.
Yeah, I think it's so easy for a coach to almost be robotic, if that makes sense. Where you're coming in, you have a practice plan, you're trying to make sure you get X, Y, Z and done. You're very linear. You're just trying to task manage and meet expectations. Where sometimes we forget that we need to be human, right?
Sure.
It's okay to talk to our kids about something other than wrestling, what their other
Sure.
interests are, all that kind of stuff. Can a coach truly be a friend to an athlete?
Oh, absolutely. Hands down. Hands down. Now, again, there's a gray area with that. Hands down. 2 of my wrestlers from high school, they were at my wedding. 21, of course, but they were at my wedding. They showed up. They were there. I have former wrestlers at the house for dinners, or, hey, I just turned 21. I got a bottle of wine. Thanks for having us. Absolutely. You can absolutely be a friend and maintain a friendship with your athletes or former athletes. However, if you're in a high school environment and you're 17, 16, whatever, there's a fine line, a very fine line. We can go do a team building movie night, miniature golf night. You're having a hard time at home and you need somebody to talk to with parental guidance or approval. Sure, we'll go out and get dinner and you can talk and vent. But you have to respect that line. There's a very fine line that you have to respect. If I'm going to respect my side, I'm going to expect you to respect your side. And I've never, knock on wood, had an issue where either line has been crossed. I've had families open their homes while they were away. Hey, come over if you need to fix your tire. The garage code is 1234, and lock up when you're done. I have wrestlers who parents would call, where are you? You should have been home 3 hours. I'm in the gym with Rosa. We're drilling. We got, districts coming up. Okay. Take them out to dinner afterwards, or buy them a burger on the way home, or give them gas money. And again, communicate and be honest. As long as you maintain that respect with the family at that level, you're fine. You can build a relationship. But as soon as you cross that line and put a little bit of a tarnish on your reputation, it's downhill. Like there's no going back from that. But yeah, relationships with parents, relationships with the athletes, building friendships, absolutely, all 100%. Some of my greatest, I don't want to say friendships, but some of my most proud and most greatest friendships are from my former wrestlers. They still check in with me. Hey, coach, how you doing? I saw you on Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, whatever. And they still check in. And it's like, that's pretty cool. Like, I must have did something right that these, college age kids are still checking in, wanting to do dinner, asking how my kids are. And so it's a beautiful thing. It could really be a wonderful relationship if you stay true to who you are.
I think that's a great answer and some great insight, because some coaches might be afraid to get that close to an athlete that they feel like they may cross a line, or they feel like they may lose the authoritarian part of their coaching. But I'm right there with you. It doesn't have to be so coach athlete, right? We can be kind of on a similar level without losing that ability to be a coach. So I think that's a fantastic answer. With these relationships, building a relationship with the coaches and the parents and the athletes, what kind of impact does that have on your program? Does that, supercharge your program and make it thrive better? Kind of talk me through how making these little adjustments, these changes, these additions can have an impact on your program.
It's tough. Like that's the downfall of it. If you build certain relationships with a certain individual or two, and the next individual feels they're getting slighted or they're not performing to what they expect they should be performing, well, you play favorites. And because I didn't get to go to a dinner night with you guys, like you must not like me, or it's not equal. And that's tough, because that's never the case. But you can't have certain relationships with every single person, whether it be home environments are different. You just want to be friends in the public eye of wrestling and your friends, but when wrestling's over, you don't want to hang out with the old guy. I don't know what it is, but there's those downfalls where you play favorites, and that one gets extra attention after practice, and it's a chess move. How do you bounce back? How do you fix that? And where do you regroup the whole team to not have this mentality that there's favoritism playing? So it falls back on the coach and how you want to, again, stay true to who you are. If you're a person who likes interaction and likes relationships, should be no problem. But if you are stuck up on friendships and trying to be the cool coach instead of the bad coach, you're going to fail. You're going to fail miserably, and it's not going to end well for you in this position or the next coaching role you take.
Yeah, all this is awesome stuff, and I thank you for joining us. One or two last things before we end. We're going to try to end this podcast with the two same questions for everyone. And because it's all about coaches, it's of coaches, it's for coaches, what was the number one, if you could think of one piece of advice you were given as either a young coach, it could even be recently, that helped shape who you are as a coach? What advice was given to you?
Hard work beats talent. And I didn't understand that quote as a child, as a kid, as an adult, as a coach, as a father. Hard work beats talent. The more you work your butt off, the more work you put in the gym, the weight room, the ball fields, the better off you're going to be. Don't just ride the coattails of I can throw a ball fast. I can hit a mean double leg. I don't need to practice. Hard work beats talent. If you have a kid who is not talented but works his butt off, focus on that kid, build him up, and see where that takes him. And I guarantee you it will go a lot further than someone who's just talented. Eventually, talent wears off. Hard work is a personality trait, a characteristic that never really goes away. So hard work beats talent. I tell it to all the young kids, all the old kids, my kids, other coaches, and just rock with it.
Yeah, definitely great advice. All right. So the intro to our podcasts are, what's the one thing you wish you knew when you were younger, or what advice would you give yourself, 20 years ago? It's always one of those quotes that, people talk about and ask about. And our answer to that is, what advice could you give a young person today that may be, dealing with the same issue that you're dealing with? So what advice would you give a young person, whether that, would be somebody who wants to be a coach, somebody who wants to get better at wrestling? What's something that you would like to pass on to someone else?
You only get one chance at life, at these opportunities that we're given in your sport, whether it's on the mat, the field, the bowling alley. You only get one opportunity. Don't waste it. If you have a chance to improve your skill set, if you have a chance to learn from somebody better, play against somebody who might be better, who cares if you win or lose? You only get one crack, because after this, you're done. You can't go back and get a reset. So give everything you got and just go for it, because at the end of the day, who knows what tomorrow brings. So yeah, definitely that. Give it all. Don't have any regrets and just keep moving.
That is so true, because life is too short. It goes away in the blink of an eye. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I get the privilege to see you on a regular basis, but for everyone who's just meeting you for the first time, make sure if you see Coach Adrian out there, he'll be on the wrestling mat this winter in Exeter gear, hopefully some, Venom gear as well.
Yeah, we'll do a joint venture.
Yeah. And thank everyone. Thank your coach. If you're with a program right now, give them a COVID handshake or a little fist bump. If you can, if you're comfortable, give them a nice tight hug. Us coaches need that every once in a while to kind of validate what we're doing. So we thank you for being a part of us. Stay tuned to new episodes. I'm going to be talking to Coach Jason Fouts real soon about motivation versus inspiration, and some great insights on that. So stay tuned for that. And we thank you for watching. If you found something valuable in this video, please share it with somebody you know. Share it on social media. If you have any feedback for us, please share it in the YouTube comment section or in the Facebook comment section. We would love to hear from you. If you think you can give some great answers like Coach Adrian just did on another topic that you have, we'd love to hear from you and schedule that for our future podcasts. Thank you so much. Have a great day.